So now to the Real Review's inaugural Vigneron of the Year Award 2025. This award is, of course, for someone who is not just a winemaker, someone who is a viticulturist who lives and breathes grapevines just as they live and breathe wine. The two things are, of course, inextricably linked. The vineyard and the winery, they should be seen as two parts of the same process. That is why we call it the Vigneron Award. It's for the old-fashioned French concept of someone who works just as much in the vineyard as they do in the winery. The finalists this year for the 2025 Real Review Vigneron of the Year. Firstly, Michael Dillon, who is from Bindi Vineyard near Gisborne in the Macedon Ranges. It'd be hard to find someone who is more of a vigneron than Michael. He lives in the vineyard. He makes wine only from the grapes that he grows himself and produces wonderful Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from many different blocks on his own vineyard. And secondly, Vanya Cullen from Margaret River, of course, a famous winery. She also lives on the vineyard, lives and breathes viticulture just as she does winemaking. All of the vines there are biodynamically grown, only use fruit from their own vineyards. It's the family. The family owns quite a lot of vineyards amongst the many members of Vanya's family. It is a true vigneron concept. Vanya Cullen is a vigneron, double N-E on the end if you are French. Finally, we have Sandra and David Dupuy from Yeringberg in the Yarra Valley. Multi-generational family at Yeringberg doing wonderful things over many, many years. And Sandra, of course, they grow their own vines, they grow their own grapes, they produce their own wine in their own winery. She is a true vigneron. Congratulations to all three. And now let's hear from the finalists themselves.
Hi, I'm Vanya Cullen, Managing Director and owner at Cullen Wines. My journey in wine has been since 1983. I have a great love of nature, so the journey of Cullen has been about great wine, sustainability and the land. And it's been a wonderful journey where we've turned our vineyard from minimal chemical inputs to organic to biodynamic, carbon neutral. That's really been my journey and still is. It's sort of the holy grail of wine production sustainably and having that wonderful connection to nature. Winemaking, viticulture, hey, it's about wine growing. So it's all about what comes from the land, the ancient soils of Willabrap, and making the best quality wine. There's always challenges, and that's more to do with, the seasonal variation, particularly now with climate change, and making our vines as healthy and as happy as they can to make the best quality grapes. Wine crafting, it's really a matter of looking at the vintage and seeing how you can best represent what's there and having the humility to acknowledge that it's not about you, it's about what's coming off the vineyard. And so the crafting is about allowing the vineyard to be its most pure and beautiful form as wine. I think every vintage is an excitement in its own right. I love the 2007 vintage because we had electrical storms in November which generated nitrogen, and we made some really exciting wines in 2007, and that was a vintage where we really got to show the how we could make wines without additions with the biodynamics. So we had the most purest, beautiful expression of the land. I feel very humbled, the blessing of being in this place in Willabrap, Margaret River. I always think that it's not about me. All of it, it's about the land, the people, the vines, and all of that comes together to make a wine. It's a lot.
I'm Sandra Dupuy. I'm the winemaker at Yeringberg. It's deeply satisfying to see the evolution and the growing stages of the vineyard, from bud burst in the spring to tiny little berries, and then eventually they ripen. And then I spend a lot of time in the vineyard choosing the right day to pick. Viticulture and winemaking is inherently challenging because basically it's farming, and we are at the mercy of the weather. And if it doesn't rain, or it rains too much, or it's too hot or too cold, that's going to change what the grapes look like, and that changes what the wine looks like. So I think that's the most difficult part, is trying to manage the vineyard and the winemaking to be consistent from year to year, but also reflect the vintage variations. Every year I make at least 6 different wines at Yeringberg, and each one is really special. I try very hard not to make bad wine. I don't bottle anything unless I think it's a really worthy wine to have the Yeringberg label. So I don't think there's a specific vintage or a specific wine that I'm most proud of. I'm proud of all of them. It's hugely satisfying to have our wines recognised as some of Australia's most iconic. Been making wine at Yeringberg on and off for 160 years, and there's been a family member as the winemaker for each of the 4 generations that have been here. And I'm really proud to continue that heritage with my brother. Making wines that people love to drink and contact us and tell us how much they've enjoyed drinking our wines for a special occasion is immensely satisfying.